please just pick up the phone. I know that you're home, I've been so alone. I've been lost in a room and the door been closed. Yo, I hope that it snows so I don't have to go out in the world that'll judge me. Lovely, trust me, I ain't looking for no one to fuck me. Love me, touch me, even though I'm ugly. I'm trying to put you on a pedestal up above me. I look in the mirror.
It's hard to deny the positive effect that cannabis has had on sports in the past and sports today as we know it. Cannabis is a part of sports whether you like it or not.
Often it pays to throw caution away. Man, I'm not gonna say that I'm living my best, cause my head it resides.
And you're getting high in the middle of the afternoon on some weed.
We gon' fly away from all these problems. Lost in the moment, I don't feel like stopping. Hey, what I'm trying to say, you never know if you're gonna die today, cause you only live your life on this earth one time. I'ma get what's mine, I'ma find a way. Hey, but hey, what I'm trying to say is call me back, I got time today. We gon' fly away from all these problems. Lost in the moment, I don't feel like stopping. Hey, what I'm trying to say, you never know if you're gon' die today, cause you only live your life on this earth one time. I'ma get what's mine, I'ma find a way. Hey.
Like a whole lot of weed.
What is going on, everybody? Hello and welcome to this week's installment of the Huddle Chat Sports Show, presented to you by MAW Energy. Game like a beast with MAW Energy. And you can also try it out with a 10% discount using my discount code now that I will drop down in the link in the video for you. Today is going to be episode 30, the Dirty 30 episode for everybody coming in today. And I'm pretty excited about today's episode. Today is going to be absolutely jam-packed with all kinds of hot takes, and I'm giving you all the smoke today. I mean, unless you've been living under a rock, you absolutely have already heard the information that Carson Wentz has become an Indianapolis Colt. He's already in Indianapolis, and he's already rubbing elbows with his new teammates. We've definitely got to discuss that today. We're also going to be talking about UFC 259, the Israel Adesanya versus Blachowicz card that's going to be coming up here on March 6th, and that's going to be an absolutely jam-packed, rolled tight card. It's an absolutely amazing and enticing card. We're going to take a deep dive into the main events on that card, and we're also discussing today some of the contenders and pretenders, who's smoking and who's choking for real in the NBA Western Conference. Today is what we're focusing at. Next episode, we'll be focusing on the Eastern Conference. Now, of course, before we get kicked off on today's episode, I want to go around and see what is the word on the tweet. Now, of course, before we can get the official word on the tweet, I actually do have some breaking news for everybody. Sadly, unfortunately, breaking news: Tiger Woods, the greatest golfer of all time, the greatest golfer to ever live, has been involved in a single car accident today, rollover accident. Quote, massive damage to the car. No other people have been involved in the accident, just Tiger Woods himself. His agent has been quoted saying that his injuries are non-life-threatening. However, he is in surgery right now with some severe injuries to both of his legs. It unfortunately looks like Tiger Woods' career may be over. We all may have watched our last golf match with Tiger Woods stepping away, unfortunately taken away too soon. Prayers goes up to Tiger Woods and his family. Like I said, his injury is non-life-threatening, but it's absolutely terrible to hear. We hate to hear that information, and that's news that just came across today. And like I said, it's very sad to hear. We do not like to hear that Tiger Woods information here on the Huddle Chat Sports Show. Let me pull up a picture of that Tiger Woods rollover accident. That's actually a picture of the car that he was driving today. Like I said, no other people involved in the accident, just Tiger himself. Prayers up to Tiger Woods, his family, for a quick recovery. Hopefully we can see the best to ever do it back on the green one more time again. Now, getting to a little less serious portion of the word on the tweet, I got to start out today, and we actually have to look at it and see. It's been a really interesting week in sports in history. Yesterday, I wish it was today, but yesterday in history in sports, we got this great and amazing interview from the one and only Mike Tyson. And, in memorandum of our new title, and shouts out to Legacy for the new title song. I hope you noticed the new title, and if you haven't seen it, you'll probably see it coming up. We got a brand new title, a brand new intro to the Huddle Chat Sports Show, and an official theme song to the Huddle Chat Sports Show, which is going to be Hey by Legacy, a local Colorado Springs artist, a good friend of mine, and he's an absolutely amazing artist. I definitely ask y'all and recommend y'all check him out on Spotify or Apple Music. His name's going to be Legacy. One of my favorite songs, of course, Hey, is going to be the new theme song of the Huddle Chat Sports Show. But in honor of our new Huddle Chat Sports Show theme, we got to pull up this unforgettable interview from the one and only Mike Tyson himself. Kick it to you, Mike.
How did you make it to this fight?
I can't take an injection. You know you're going to test me. But all praise be to Allah. I don't know. I don't even know. I'm just happy that I'm fighting and I punch him well and accurate, that my trainer, Freddie Roach, Robert Lewis, oh, God, I'm sorry, Tyrone Boone, we owe each other to fight each other, to elevate our life.
Mike, were you really sick this week? What was the problem?
I broke my back.
What do you mean by that? You
My
broke
back is broken.
What, a vertebrae or what portion?
Spinal.
You did that in sparring?
No, I did it by a motorcycle accident. The doctor discovered I was doing my sit-ups, 2,500 a day with my 20-pound weight, and one day I couldn't move anymore. And I asked the doctor, what's wrong? And he said, believe it or not, it's wearing your back is broken slightly.
So are you in pain right now? Did you take some type of injection, or how did you make it to this fight?
I can't take an injection. You know you're going to test me, but all praise be to Allah. I don't know. I don't even know. I'm just happy that I'm fighting and I punch him well and accurate, that my trainer, Freddie Roach, Robert Lewis, oh, God, I'm sorry.
I mean, my boy Mike Tyson. I mean, that's unforgettable. That lives in the history of sports, and that lives in all of our memories, frozen in time. And like I said, that happens just yesterday in sports history, and that's how we're kicking off the word on the tweet. Now, word on the tweet, sources are telling me that DeMarcus Cousins is now a free agent from the Houston Rockets, despite everybody saying in the Houston Rockets organization that everything coming about DeMarcus Cousins being released was just rumor, it was just fodder, and they weren't feeding into it, and that was just less than 12 hours before they released DeMarcus Cousins. So it seems that everybody was kind of in the know of the game that the Houston Rockets are playing, and it's kind of one of those situations where you're looking at the Houston Rockets and the Houston Texans organization and wondering what the hell are they doing out there in Houston. No wonder NASA is no longer going to be in Houston, because Houston, we officially have a problem. Y'all are having an issue with your sports teams, with your athletes, and the way that they are run all together in a whole, like I said. And the crazy thing about DeMarcus Cousins being released is a lot of people were kind of rumoring, a lot of talks were happening that DeMarcus Cousins may be reuniting with LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers, but they have actually come out today and said that a DeMarcus Cousins return to Los Angeles is, quote, unlikely. So we're not going to see DeMarcus Cousins moved to LA back with LeBron, at least in the Los Angeles Clippers or Los Angeles Lakers. He still has a chance to make that Clippers roster. Now I want to know, who do you think is going to pick up Boogie Cousins? Where do you think DeMarcus Cousins is finna head to? Because he's not going to Los Angeles, and he just got released from Houston despite the rumors. So where do you think Boogie's finna go? We're going to talk about that here in a little bit, but drop me in the comments, where do you think DeMarcus Cousins is going to find himself by the end of this NBA trade deadline here? Or, I mean, he's a free agent now, so it doesn't really necessarily matter on the trade deadline, but where do you think he's going to find himself by the NBA Finals, by the NBA playoffs? Let me know. Drop it in the comments. Let me know your opinion. We're going to talk about it here in a little bit. Now, you've heard of Khabib Nurmagomedov, I'm quite sure, especially if you watch this show, because we talk about the UFC quite often here on the Huddle Chat Sports Show, and Khabib Nurmagomedov is arguably one of the best pound-for-pound fighters today. He just retired from the UFC, and you've heard of Khabib Nurmagomedov, the UFC fighter. Now, have you heard of Khabib Nurmagomedov, the soccer player? Khabib Nurmagomedov has just come out on Twitter talking about that he is getting ready for his football debut. He's getting ready to come out, be a soccer player. He tweeted it out, and one of the biggest soccer organizations, I'm not a huge soccer fan, so forgive me. one of the biggest soccer organizations actually responded to Khabib Nurmagomedov and told him all the reasons why he should come out and try out for their team, and they actually even offered him a contract. So Khabib Nurmagomedov could actually be a soccer player before you know it, before he takes his next fight in the UFC. Some people are saying he's going to soccer because he's, you know, he's afraid of taking that zero on his record like Floyd Mayweather is. I don't know. I'm absolutely interested to see it. I mean, he's only, 32 years old, so he still has some gas left in the tank. And as you see with Michael Jordan, Deion Sanders, athletes that sometimes that translates well over into other sports. And I'd be excited to see Khabib in soccer and what position even he would play. I mean, he kicked the shit out of some legs, so I'd wonder how fast and hard he'd be able to kick a soccer ball and what he'd be able to do out there on the field, in the field of play in between the white lines, as Coach Stanley used to say. Now, one last thing I'm hearing from sources, and this is actually probably my favorite word on the tweet today. We all know Calvin Johnson, better known as Megatron, the newly minted Hall of Fame wide receiver from the Detroit Lions. He just got added into the Hall of Fame just this last week. Just got inducted, got his gold jacket, and so congratulations to Megatron. But the coolest thing about Calvin Johnson, about Megatron, sources are telling me that Calvin Johnson and former Lions teammate Rob Sims have actually come out and they own their own dispensaries in Michigan now. They believe in the science and in the potential of the marijuana industry, and you've actually even had them come out and there's different interviews with them being quoted, Calvin Johnson most specifically being quoted as saying by the end of his career he was using cannabis every weekend or after every game, and sometimes even during the week, to help inflammation, ease pain, and to help just ease that day-to-day what was it? What was the quotes that he said? Just to help ease that day-to-day grogginess of getting up and out of bed, help lessen that daily drag in the morning. And with the NFL recently loosening their marijuana policies, cutting down the time that it takes between the off season and the regular season for the testing down to 2 weeks during training camp, upping the amount of THC content required for a positive test, and allowing their players that form of therapy, that form of medication, that form of relaxation. It's better than opioids, as I'm seeing in the comments. It's a better alternative, and they're allowing players to do that now, and they're making those different steps to let those players, and it's absolutely amazing to see former NFL players, and not just former NFL players, one of the biggest names in the NFL. He just got into the Hall of Fame, and everybody knows the name of Megatron. He comes out, says topicals are some of his favorites. If you've seen pictures of Calvin Johnson's hands, and I wish I had time to get a picture of his hands, I implore you to take a quick second and just Google Calvin Johnson's hands and tell me those are not some of the nastiest fingers you've ever seen in your life. And that man, he could definitely use some salve, and you can tell why. My man needs to put some salve and some topicals on his fingers just to enjoy a round of golfing. So it's really cool to see, like I said, some NFL superstars starting to come out and not just voice the positivity of cannabis, but support cannabis. I mean, between the two of them, they made over $130 million in the NFL. They don't need to work. This is something that inspires them. This is something that drives them, that they are absolutely interested, and that keeps them going as people, as humans. So it's absolutely exciting because, I mean, if you're like me, I mean, I'm in the industry. I do this podcast. I do a lot of things to kind of infuse cannabis together with sports and to show that cannabis is going to be a part of sports whether you like it or not. And as you heard in the theme, and as you hear me say constantly, this is a cannabis-powered yet sports-driven talk show. We don't focus on cannabis, but when cannabis does come up relevant in the sports world, we talk about it, just like we did here with Calvin Johnson. We are driven by sports, though. Like I said, we don't focus on marijuana, and we like to plow new ground. We like to tackle those team storylines and players that don't get as much attention as they should in the national headlines. Now, with us not focusing on marijuana, it's still heavily infused throughout the podcast because it's hard to deny the positive impact cannabis has on sports. Like I said, in the recovery, you're seeing it with Calvin Johnson, with Rob Sims, with other NFL players, other athletes starting to come out and voice the positivity for cannabis. But that's not what we're here about. What we're here for today is going to be the sports that have happened this week. Now, like I said, coming up to start out the episode, unless you've been living under a rock, you know Carson Wentz has become an Indianapolis Colt. I mean, in honor of Bobby Schmurda getting sent home about a week ago, we got our quarterback, and I'm absolutely excited. I could definitely hit y'all with a shmoney dance, but we don't got time for that because we got a lot of news that we have to get into today. But before I get it kicked in and we start getting in and diving in to that Carson Wentz situation, let me just run y'all this real quick video, see what you guys think about it, and then we're going to talk about what Carson Wentz is going to bring to the Indianapolis Colts. So y'all enjoy this video. I'm going to kick it to you now.
Divorce that seemed inevitable this offseason has reached a peak, with the Philadelphia Eagles agreeing to trade Carson Wentz, the number 2 overall pick in the 2016 draft, to the Indianapolis Colts, setting up a reunion with Frank Reich. This, of course, according to our Mike Garafolo. According to Mike's reporting, the Colts are giving up a 3rd rounder in the 2021 draft and a conditional 2nd rounder in 2022. This ends the Carson Wentz era in Philadelphia.
So the Indianapolis Colts just acquired Carson Wentz, as I've discussed before. And as an Indianapolis Colts fan, I'm absolutely enthralled by it. It warms my plums. It makes me so happy. We finally got a quarterback. In the 5 years, this will be the 5th year, that Frank Reich has been the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. We've had 5 different day one starters. We went from Jacoby Brissett, Andrew Luck, Phillip Rivers. We flip-flop back and forth, and it's been heartbreaking as an Indianapolis Colts fan. Carson Wentz will be the 5th different day one starter for the Indianapolis Colts, week 1 starter. And honestly, I didn't know how to feel about the Carson Wentz when I first heard about it, because it was one of those things. We talked about it last week on the Huddle Chat Sports Show, about the different quarterback carousel that the Indianapolis Colts were in, and the very next day Carson Wentz gets signed by the Indianapolis Colts. It's one of those things where Carson Wentz makes sense for the Indianapolis Colts, and we're getting ready to talk about that. But the reason that it makes me so happy as an Indianapolis Colts fan is because what we paid for Carson Wentz. We gave up officially a 3rd round pick for next year and a conditional 2nd round pick, or a 3rd round pick for this year and a conditional 2nd round pick for next year. Now, when I say conditional 2nd round pick, that means if Carson Wentz plays 75% of the snaps for the Indianapolis Colts at the quarterback position, then that 2nd round pick turns into a 1st round pick. But at that point, Carson Wentz playing 75% of the snaps, he has the ability to show everybody who Carson Wentz is, and that he can still be the Carson Wentz and the MVP candidate caliber player that he was in 2017. So at that point, Carson Wentz playing 80% of the snaps, I'm not upset with that 2nd turning into a 1st, especially if you consider the fact what Chris Ballard has been able to do and been able to turn those 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th round picks into over the last few years. We don't even need to get into and dive into what the talent that the Indianapolis Colts have been able to pick up in that 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. If we're going off the Chris Ballard draft strategy, the way to go about it is to trade your 1st rounders for studs, like we did with DeForest Buckner last year, and pick up all your money players in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, all the way down, and do your scouting. Those 1st round players have so much hype, have so much pressure on them that, you know, if they don't come out and they don't perform instantly, then they're instantly a bust. But you look at what Darius Leonard, Julian Blackmon, Jonathan Taylor, the list goes on what the Indianapolis Colts have been able to do in the 2nd round and beyond. But what we paid for Carson Wentz was, I mean, we basically gave the Philadelphia Eagles a bag of cookies and took Carson Wentz. Now, unfortunately for the Indianapolis Colts, we did sign Carson Wentz before March 17th, which means that we have to take on the $10 million roster bonus that is tied into his contract. And honestly, Carson Wentz's contract is one of the only things that makes Carson Wentz not an attractive piece for the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, fact of the matter is, whether it was Sam Darnold, whether it was Mitch Trubisky, whether it was Jameis Winston, whether it was Teddy Bridgewater, Cam Newton, Justin Fields, trade all the way up, get Trevor Lawrence. No matter what quarterback option we were going to take, unless it was one of the unrealistic options like Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, we were going to have to hope. We were going to have to take a player and say, behind this coaching staff, behind the weapons and everything that we have, he's going to be able to develop and he's going to be able to play the best football that he's been able to play. The same story that we tell for Carson Wentz, we would have had the same story for any quarterback. Like I said last week, no option really would have been a bad option for the Indianapolis Colts at quarterback. I was even okay with taking Jacoby Brissett for another year and seeing what quarterbacks we had coming up. Like I said, no option was a bad option besides behind what the Indianapolis Colts had. But with Carson Wentz, before we talk about the future, let's talk about the past, because I even had a few Philadelphia Eagles fans come to me talking out the side of their neck, talking about, you guys can have Carson Wentz. He did absolutely nothing for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm not going to lie to you, it absolutely baffled me and it absolutely blew my mind. I dropped my lighter. Let me grab it really fast. Now, for Philadelphia Eagles fans to say that Carson Wentz never did anything for the Philadelphia Eagles, that just shows the casuality in their fandom. It shows that they aren't just really paying attention to football. They're just paying attention when the team that their daddy says is the favorite team of the house wins football games. Carson Wentz, a fact of the matter, in 2017, we all know Carson Wentz was playing MVP caliber football and was honestly the runaway MVP in 2017 before he tore 2 ligaments in his leg, in his knee, and before he did so, played 15 games? 14. No, yeah, it's 15 actually. Leads the Philadelphia Eagles to a 13-2 record, number 1 seed in the NFC before tearing both those ligaments in his knee. And Carson Wentz then, of course, is out for the next year at minimum from those torn ligaments. Nick Foles eventually goes on, leads the Philadelphia Eagles to the playoffs, eventually to the Super Bowl, and the rest is history. We all know the story. Now, if you think Nick Foles... Now, of course, Carson Wentz didn't win that Super Bowl. Nick Foles did. But if you think Nick Foles would have put the Philadelphia Eagles in the same position to win that Carson Wentz did in 2017, you're higher than I am at the current moment. I mean, to say something so baffling that Nick Foles himself, why wasn't he able to do it the next season? Why wasn't he able to do it with the Chicago Bears? Why is it not Nick Foles, the same Nick Foles that you're saying that he is, if Nick Foles would have been able to lead the Philadelphia Eagles to that 13-2 record going into Week 16 with the number 1 seed in the NFC? So you guys can miss me with that Carson Wentz didn't do anything for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, what did happen to Carson Wentz is after that injury, he comes back that next season, after losing Frank Reich, ultimately, who was the coach that he trusted, the coach he respected the most. It comes out at the end of the day that he didn't even really respect Doug Peterson, and we're getting ready to get into that here in a minute. But comes back after an insane injury. And when he comes back earlier than he really should, because the regular season started. The time waits for no man, and he comes back into that 2018 season not the same Carson Wentz that he was in 2017. He was a shell of himself, and he wasn't fully healthy. Now, through the 2019 season, the Philadelphia Eagles continued to lose weapons that they had around Carson Wentz, and the weapons that they did not lose continue to go through injuries, continue to go through struggles, and last season was a perfect example for Carson Wentz. I mean, 2020 was an absolutely putrid year for Carson Wentz, but anybody would have had a bad year with the Philadelphia Eagles last year. Let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, the Philadelphia Eagles are a bad team. They play in the NFC East, where literally every team was led by a backup quarterback this season. The Dallas Cowboys were garbanzo beans. The New York Giants were terrible after Saquon Barkley got hurt. The Washington football team could not even figure out their damn name this season, let alone figuring out how to win football games. I mean, it was a constant complaint from everybody all season long that a team from the NFC East had to make the playoffs. If this worked anything like any other sport, no team from the NFC East would have deserved a playoff spot. In no real situation does a team make the playoffs with a losing record. That's just the fact of the matter. So the Eagles, last season, let's just point to the fact that Carson Wentz was playing with practice squad and third string players. Through all the injuries and all the COVID protocols and health and safety bullshit that the Philadelphia Eagles had to deal with this season, the Carson Wentz was throwing to nobody. The weapons that he had were either gone or injured. Deshaun Jackson was, a shell of himself last year, which is why Deshaun Watson actually is a pretty good example of what Deshaun Jackson was last season. He was not the same Deshaun Jackson that Philadelphia Eagles fans and honestly NFL fans have come to know and love, that dominant, quick, fast, explosive wide receiver. Now I do see that skip comment, and I have to do it. I have to do you Cowboys fans like that, NFC East fans like that. The Philadelphia Eagles are a bad team. They had a bad offense. They had a bad defense. Even when the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl, they were not that explosive of a team. They had a lot of depth of really average, really medium caliber players. But off the top of your head, can you name me the best superstar that Carson Wentz had on that team? I believe it was Nelson Aguilar, Alshon Jeffrey. They're good targets, but nothing really to blink your eye. I look at what they've done since that 2017 season. Carson Wentz isn't the only person that regressed since his injury. The Philadelphia Eagles as an organization regressed. Now, Carson Wentz also, he got bottle fed. He got pacified a lot with the Philadelphia Eagles organization. They put him in positions that no organization should really put any player, especially a player at that young of an age, at. They gave Carson Wentz too much power in the organization. And as I said before, when Frank Reich left, it definitely came out in the wash that Carson Wentz did not click with Doug Peterson whatsoever. It's very reminiscent to the Mike McCarthy situation in Green Bay when that all unfolded at the end of it. So you look at Carson Wentz, he's audibling a lot more. He's holding the ball a lot more behind that absolutely terrible offensive line, and he's taking sacks. He's making mistakes that he shouldn't be because he does not trust the coach, does not trust the play calling, because ultimately his real coach in Frank Reich had left. Now, where did Frank Reich go? Well, Frank Reich skipped across the pond and came over to Indianapolis and brought us a winning, happy culture. After everything that happened with Chuck Pagano and Chuck Strong, and we had a great year with Chuck Pagano, which was actually a great year with Bruce Arians. And then Chuck Pagano came back, ruined us for a little bit. I can't lie to you. But then we saw the light. The best thing that ever happened to the Indianapolis Colts was Josh McDaniels' bitch ass pulling out and not wanting to be our head coach because we ended up landing the better option in Frank Reich. I didn't want Josh McDaniels to begin with, so nothing made me happier than Josh McDaniels not wanting to come. So now we have Frank Reich. Not only do we have Frank Reich, we have two other coaches. Now, forgive me at the current moment, they're slipping my mind, but we have two other coaches that worked with Carson Wentz and the Philadelphia Eagles organization as offensive personnel, offensive coaching staff during that 2017 Super Bowl run that are now on the Indianapolis Colts organization. So everybody coming in just gives us that. Gives Carson Wentz that comfort and makes the transition for Carson Wentz that much easier. Now, we're talking about the future for Carson Wentz. The person that won the trade between the Indianapolis Colts and the Philadelphia Eagles is Carson Wentz. Because if we look at what his career was about to be if he stayed a Philadelphia Eagles, or if he got unlucky and the Chicago Bears ended up picking up Carson Wentz for the trade that they were talking about, Carson Wentz would have officially become a bust. He would have officially become a player that could have been that never was. Fact of the matter is, Carson Wentz comes to an absolutely amazing coaching staff. He's also behind a top 5 offensive line. Usually you'll hear me say the best offensive line in football, but we were a top 5 offensive line in football last season. We took a lot of injuries, and at the end of the season, our left tackle Anthony Costanzo retired. So until we fill that spot with Anthony Costanzo, and until I can see what that left tackle has to do and what our offensive line looks like with that new piece added in, I cannot really come around and carry that greatest offensive line in football belt around with me confidently. So we're a top 5 offensive line in football. Carson Wentz also never had a 1,000-yard rusher the entire time that he was in Philadelphia. Hello, Jonathan Taylor. Welcome, Carson Wentz. So Carson Wentz is sitting behind a top 5 offensive line. Now, when you look at what Carson Wentz went through last season, Carson Wentz, let's look at the paper here. Carson Wentz took 50, not 15, 50 sacks from the Eagles last season. The Eagles as a team let up 65 sacks. So even Jalen Hurts, when he took over, took 15 sacks after Carson Wentz took 50 sacks. The Indianapolis Colts as an entire unit last season let up 19 sacks. I mean, that stat alone right there should just make even half of the story for you. Carson Wentz is going to have that time. He's going to have that comfort. He's not going to have to be scrambling around and to be making those plays. I mean, if you look at some of Carson Wentz's highlights, at least 65% of those highlights of Carson Wentz on the Philadelphia Eagles are Carson Wentz making absolutely out of the ordinary sunshine from Remember the Titans style plays where he's ducking under tackles, stiff-arming people, throwing the pass before his knees hit the ground. Like, Carson Wentz is doing Patrick Mahomes style shit, but not because he's got the skill, because he's being forced to. His body's being contorted in ways a human body should not have to. He looks a lot like Andrew Luck did when Andrew Luck was an Indianapolis Colt. That's how the Indianapolis Colts ruined Andrew Luck himself, being the most hit quarterback in the league year after year after year, despite not being a quarterback that runs the ball as much as a Russell Wilson or a Cam Newton does. Being the most hit quarterback in the league and going to being one of the least rushed quarterbacks in the league as a whole, I mean, it's going to be an absolutely amazing adjustment for Carson Wentz. Not only that, I mean, at the current moment, we only have 2 locked-in wide receivers. Zach Pascal, free agent. T.Y. Hilton, free agent. I'm hoping that we can keep T.Y. Hilton. T.Y.'s my man. T.Y. sparks joy in my heart. I love nothing more than doing a T.Y. dance on Sunday when he scores those touchdowns. I only got to do it one time this season. Twice. The first one got called back. Pass interference, Michael Pittman. But that's another day. We're not even going to talk about it on another day, actually. But I only got to do my T.Y. Hilton dance one time this year, and I think it would be great to see T.Y. Hilton brought back, but not as our number 1 wide receiver. What I want the Indianapolis Colts to do, the main target I really want us to go get, we need a number 1 wide receiver in free agency, and we need to spend the money on a wide receiver in free agency. Now, you're wondering, with Carson Wentz coming to the Indianapolis Colts and having such an unfriendly contract, how does that work out for you guys getting a wide receiver? Now, I'm going to get to that. Give me just one second. So, when we're looking at the Indianapolis Colts getting a wide receiver, because at the current moment, our 2 wide receivers are the rookie Michael Pittman Jr. and basically the second-year player, Paris Campbell. He was hurt all season last season with, I believe it was like a torn ACL or something along. It was something in his legs. He was a very fast, speedy wide receiver, and now he's coming back off of a leg injury directly after his rookie year. So he's going to be a second-year wide. So we got 2 second-year wideouts. Michael Pittman showed us some flashes last season, but was fairly inconsistent. I believe one of our tight ends, Trey Burton, is also a free agent this year, so we're losing some pass catchers if we don't re-sign anybody. But the main target that I want the Indianapolis Colts to go out and get is going to be Allen Robinson from the Chicago Bears. I mean, he's getting wasted in Chicago right now. He's a free agent, and we have the money to pay him. Now, Chris Godwin has come out and says he would like to stay in Tampa Bay, but would like to get paid as well. Now, Chris Godwin is a target that I would like, but I also would not break the bank to get a Chris Godwin when we can easily acquire an Allen Robinson, someone of same, if not better, talent level to become that number 1 wide receiver. Let T.Y. Hilton hit that number 2. Michael Pittman, Paris Campbell can run that slot. We don't run 3 wide receivers too often because we have such good tight ends. Maybe the Indianapolis Colts, I've heard, we're not going to trade for Zach Ertz. But if he does become a free agent and they don't re-sign him, then we will definitely pursue getting Zach Ertz, and that's just another connection for Carson Wentz. So I of course would welcome that at all stops. Now, the Indianapolis Colts, like I said, the only thing that sucks about Carson Wentz's contract, and the only thing that could potentially stand in the way of the Indianapolis Colts acquiring a wide receiver and acquiring that offensive tackle talent that they do need, is going to be Carson Wentz's contract. Now, before the Indianapolis Colts signed Carson Wentz, we were projected the 2nd overall highest cap space in the NFL. After the Carson Wentz trade, that drops us all the way down to number 5. We're still a top 5 projected cap team in the NFL, so I'm not tripping whatsoever. Still one, and we do have a lot of key players to re-sign. Like I said before, we got T.Y. Hilton, Marlon Mack. I don't think we're going to re-sign him as much as I would like to because he did us right. and he got injured. That sucks. Jonathan Taylor's much better. But Marlon Mack deserves to be a running back somewhere that he can be a starting running back, and Jonathan Taylor is going to definitely take that opportunity away from him. So we have a lot of key free agents that we may need to re-sign, but at the same time, we can also go out and get fresh new free agents. So we got a lot of money. We just got to spend it in the right places. We have a top defense. We have a top 5 offensive line, a top 5 rushing attack. The only holes for the Indianapolis Colts right now are the targets, the wide receivers. We actually, to be honest with you, I personally think that we are very reminiscent, but a lot better version of that 2017 Philadelphia Eagles team that Carson Wentz took to the Super Bowl. Not a lot of superstar talent on either side of the ball, but a great defense. A really good offensive line at the time, and an even better offensive line with the Indianapolis Colts now. And like I said, he's never had a 1,000-yard rusher, so he's now got a new element to his game that he never had before. Fact of the matter is, this is Carson Wentz's chance to show everybody that Carson Wentz is and can be that 2017 Carson Wentz that we thought, that best quarterback in the league caliber player that we thought. I personally never thought that he was better than Andrew Luck, but you cannot look at the stats and tell me that his numbers aren't at least similar to Andrew Luck, and he's younger than Andrew Luck. So if Carson Wentz works out for the Indianapolis Colts, if he even comes in and plays 75% of what the Indianapolis Colts are expecting, that's an absolute victory for the Indianapolis Colts. We have found our quarterback of the future. And I think Carson Wentz's best chance, and honestly only chance, lied with the Indianapolis Colts and Frank Reich out here in the blue and white. I have lots of high hopes for Carson Wentz in the Indianapolis Colts, and you can damn sure believe that I'm going to be updating my Super Bowl predictions, my playoff predictions. But I'm going to tell you right now, I hate to break your hearts, all my fellow Colts fans, I'm not going to be able to realistically put the Indianapolis Colts in a deep playoff situation scenario until we sign a wide receiver and fill that hole at offensive tackle. I can't realistically say that we're going to be Super Bowl contenders until we fill those 2 holes. Those 2 holes are going to be key holes for us, and if we fill those holes, we are one of the scariest, most complete teams in the NFL. Carson Wentz, there's honestly no way the Indianapolis Colts can go wrong with this trade unless Carson Wentz is absolutely putrid. And at the same time, like I said before, that's the same chances that we took with Darnold, Winston, anybody that wasn't an unrealistic trade target. So Carson Wentz to the Indianapolis Colts, that is an absolute win for Carson, for the Colts, and for the state of Indiana as a whole. A lot more people are getting ready to talk about us, and to be honest with you, I personally think that no bigger trade is going to happen in the NFL this season unless Deshaun Watson gets moved, which I personally find to be very unlikely at the current moment. But I also would really like to know what you think. I mean, we've already seen Matt Stafford get moved. We've already seen Jared Goff get moved. Who do you think is going to be the next big quarterback change? You're hearing the Cowboys may potentially be re-signing Dak Prescott. You hear the Steelers just today said that they want Ben Roethlisberger in their plans. You hear the Jets and the Raiders talking about shopping their quarterback and looking at all the other options that are available before making the decision on their quarterback. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Drop it down below. We'll talk about it at some point at the end of the episode. What do you think is going to be the next big quarterback move in the NFL? Do you think Deshaun gets moved? Do you think Dak Prescott goes elsewhere? What do you think is going to happen in the NFL? Like I said, I personally don't believe there is going to be a bigger trade in the NFL this season. The biggest trade of the year already happened, and the league the league hasn't even officially started. So the Colts have already got the biggest blockbuster quarterback trade. But I want to know if you think anybody else is going to get one. So you let me know. Drop it down in the comments. Like I said, we're going to talk about it here a little bit later on in the show here today. Now, what I want to point to today, guys, so moving on to the next topic in the episode, and I'm absolutely excited, we have an amazing, honestly, one of the best, and I want some of y'all UFC fans to drop it down in the comments. Let me know if there has ever been a better, more hyped up, I can't say better until it's over, but a more hyped up, a higher potential UFC fight weekend, UFC fight card than we have coming up on this UFC 259 on March 6th. Now, it extremely excites me because that's my birthday weekend. My birthday is March 3rd. It's coming up here in the next week, and I'm going to be able to celebrate my birthday that Saturday, watching. Two of my favorite fighters currently to watch, Israel Adesanya and Amanda Nunes, duke it out, potentially both be raising 2 belts at the end of the fights, potentially double up on the double champions this weekend. So like I said, if anybody, I'm hard-pressed to find it. If anybody else can let me know of a more hyped-up UFC card than we have this coming Saturday, not this coming Saturday, but March 6th, next Saturday, then we do, let me know in the comments. But before we dive into this UFC 259, like I said, it's my birthday weekend. So I want to actually give you guys a really big announcement. It's perfect time to do so. I got quite a few viewers, so I can let you guys know this right now. Next week, I will not be doing an episode. I'm taking a week off next week because it's my birthday week. Going out of town, so I won't be here. I may try to come up with a video or an idea to post for y'all, so I don't leave y'all hungry for the Huddle Chat on Tuesday. But next Tuesday, don't be expecting an episode next Tuesday. Expect me to be coming back immediately after coming after, I believe what would that be, the 9th, that March 9th Tuesday. Expect me coming back that very next week. So we're taking 1 week off here at the Huddle Chat Sports Show to celebrate my birthday and all that good stuff. But before we get started on that UFC 259 talk, I want to show you guys the trailer, because if you don't know what's going on with this UFC 259, if you live under the same rock that guy that doesn't know about the Carson Wentz trade lives under, I got your back. Let's show you guys this extremely hyped trailer and take a deep dive into what's coming up March 6th, UFC 259. Enjoy. Man, like I said, that UFC card looks so exciting. It looks so hype. I mean, as you saw there, we got 4 champions coming in, 3 different title fights, the potential for 2 different double champions. I mean, you couldn't write a better story for this upcoming UFC event. This card is so damn good that Dominic Cruz is on the prelims, my guy. I mean, this card is absolutely ridiculous. I do have a picture of the card. I just don't think I got it queued up on the video, so I can't pull up the card to show you. But take a second, Google the card, just look at what fights are scheduled on that card coming up, that UFC 259. Now, like I said, the two main events, co-main events, are going to be the Amanda Nunes Anderson fight, and that's going to be a slobber knocker. And that's actually, I think that fight has the potential of ruining a UFC division. We're going to talk about that here in a second. And then the other fight that we have is going to be the main event, Jan Blachowicz versus Izzy Adesanya, the last style bender. I personally think the most interesting UFC fighter to watch today in the current UFC, and could potentially, in this fight and incoming fights, really slide up into that top 5 pound for pound conversation with the likes of John Bones Jones, Amanda Nunes, and others. Now, with that, like I said, that Megan Anderson and Amanda Nunes fight, Amanda Nunes is absolutely dominant. She's the GOAT, best women's fighter in ever. You saw what she did to Ronda Rousey. You saw what she did to Chris Cyborg. You saw what she did to Shayna Baszler. I mean, like, she's the names that she's knocked out, and like I said, most recognizably, Holly Holm knocked out, Chris Cyborg knocked out, Ronda Rousey knocked out, Colt. Like, I mean, Amanda Nunes is not built like most women are built, and she's fearless. She's the lioness. She's absolutely interesting as fuck to watch, and I love watching her almost as much as I like watching Israel Adesanya. She's just not as flashy. She's just more of a gritty, beat your ass type of fighter, and that's what everybody loves in a UFC fighter, in a UFC event. Now, Amanda Nunes, what she brings to the table, like I said, she has the potential in this fight of ruining an entire UFC division, of completely disintegrating the entire division. Now, I'm not even joking you when I say that I think that the 145-pound women's division is in danger with this fight. If Megan Anderson doesn't win, I'm not going to lie to you, it's very meek for the 145 division. Now, I'm not just saying that because I'm like, who can fight who's going to be able to fight Nunes next. Now, before I start this, I'm gonna start this off by saying I'm an extremely big Megan Anderson fan. She's one of my top 3 favorite women fighters to watch, behind Amanda Nunes. I think she's absolutely dominant. I'm extremely excited to see her fight Amanda Nunes. She's one of my favorite fighters to watch as well, especially on the women's side of things. But early in her career, she signed a 6-fight deal with the UFC, a 6-fight contract with the UFC. Now, if you don't know how UFC contracts work, it's not like a basketball or a football contract where it's like, a certain amount of years or certain. So it's what it is you sign a fight contract. So like with Megan Anderson, she signed 6 fights. So she is guaranteed 6 fights in the UFC, and then after that she's a free agent. She can go to Strikeforce, she can do whatever she wants. This fight is fight number 6 for Megan Anderson. Now I would like you can quote me on this, you can Google this, you can fact check this, come back to the Huddle Chat Sports, comment on it later, tell me that I'm wrong if I am wrong, because I would love you to tell me that. I've never, and you're hard pressed to find anybody ever in UFC history that's going into a championship bout without a contract. This is fight number 6, and she's entering this championship fight with no new contract, no extension, and that's never happened before. Now, you do kind of get that what's next sense after this fight. If Anderson is unsuccessful, which most women, every woman that has stepped in front of Amanda Nunes in recent memory, if she's unsuccessful, what's next in that division? Who can step up in that division and even contend with Amanda Nunes? It's not just fight experts and fake analysts like myself saying that, oh, Amanda Nunes is so dominant, nobody wants to fight her. No, they aren't even signing other fighters' contracts because of how this division looks and because of the state of this division. Fact of the matter is that 145-pound division is in danger, and I think that, like I said, I think that Anderson stands a chance. You hear before every single, especially championship fight, that this specific fighter, this person coming up on the schedule is the greatest matchup that they face, the greatest threat to their title, all that good stuff. Now, I really do believe that with Megan Anderson. She's got the size, she's got the power, she's got the speed, and she's got the chin and heart to stand with Amanda Nunes. But, bro, Chris Cyborg couldn't stand and bang with Amanda Nunes. I got very little faith in any woman that can step up in front of Amanda Nunes at the current moment. Even one of my favorite women in the world. I wouldn't personally stand in front of Amanda Nunes, and I'm 6'4". Amanda Nunes would beat me stupid, dude. Amanda Nunes is dominant. She's the GOAT, the second best fighter all time, men included, pound for pound. John Bones Jones, of course, is the first. And like I said, she could potentially not just knock out Megan Anderson this weekend, but knock out the entire 145-pound weight class for the UFC. Now, you look at the actual main event, which is, man, it's a big fight. It's a long-awaited bout, and it has a lot of future potential as well, to excite UFC fans and MMA fans, and we're gonna get into that here in a second. Now, Jan versus Izzy, we watched Adesanya dominate the middleweight division. I mean, nobody. He went 20-0, I believe. 20-0 was his record. Nobody could step in front of Israel Adesanya. I mean, you saw him get challenged a couple of times, but Israel Adesanya, he absolutely slaughtered and dominated that middleweight division in the UFC, and eventually had to take that 20-pound step and go into the light heavyweight division. Now, this Jan Izzy fight is extremely intriguing because you're going to get to see everything that comes in, becomes a factor in this fight that you don't typically see in your stereotypical UFC fight, and that you see in your stereotypical middleweight UFC fight. Jan Blachowicz, first of all, should not be taken lightly at all. He's an extremely underrated threat, and a lot of fight fans are not taking him serious. Now, I will not deny that he was a late bloomer, and his path to gold did get kind of boosted through John Bones Jones absolutely dominating that division and then leaving the scraps and relinquishing the title to step up to heavyweight. So Jan Blachowicz steps in, fights that amazing fight, and gets that championship gold over Reyes. But with Blachowicz, he does have that power to shut the lights out on anybody. He's coming into this fight confident that he's going to be able to stun and potentially hurt Israel Adesanya. Now, we have seen Israel Adesanya hurt before, now, albeit by a faster Kevin Gastelum when he was fighting. But you have seen Israel Adesanya compromised. You have seen him hurt before. He's got the size, the physical ability, and that veteran savvy that can just turn this fight around at any moment. Israel Adesanya, he's 6'4". He's a tall, lengthy opponent. He's a very quick, energetic middleweight opponent. But Jan Blachowicz, being a shorter, stockier built opponent, he's going to be able to hit Adesanya, and we have seen it. We've always known about it as UFC fight fans, and you would think that UFC fighters, of course, have always known about it as well. But we've seen it a lot in recent big events, that the powerful leg kicks and those powerful lower body strikes, those can really change the game. And being a shorter, stockier builded fighter, Blachowicz has that ability to be able to throw those powerful lower body kicks and those powerful strikes that can change the game at any time and make this an extremely interesting fight at any moment. I mean, the speed advantage could have an absolutely huge impact, as we all know. But like I said, those leg kicks, that power that Blachowicz brings could end the fight at any moment. He could shut the lights down at any moment, and he remains a threat to Israel Adesanya as long as this fight goes on. He, of course, doesn't really want to make this a kickboxing match. Israel Adesanya is a kickboxing master, and he's kickboxed at different weight classes throughout his career in the past. But my fear with Jan Blachowicz, and what is ultimately going to get Israel Adesanya his second belt around his waist, is that I think that Jan Blachowicz, being a more powerful opponent, first of all, is not going to be able to keep up with the speed of Israel Adesanya. Now, the question is Israel Adesanya's power going to be able to translate into into the next division? Now, that is leads to be seen. But when it comes to Israel Adesanya being when it comes to Israel Adesanya being a quicker fighter, the thing that kind of freezes a lot of fighters in front of him and gets a lot of fighters the L when they're facing Israel Adesanya is the fact that Israel Adesanya has the ability to freeze you with those feints and with that speed and with all that trickery that he does, that Anderson Silva style of fighting. And I think that's going to be Jan Blachowicz's biggest downfall, is that the way that he typically paces a fight is actually probably going to not work in his favor, because it's going to allow Israel Adesanya to set those traps, to come in there and play the games that he wants to, and ultimately end the fight how he would like to in this UFC 259. So at the end of it all, I do see us doubling up essentially on those double champions. Amanda Nunes is going to come in. She's going to make light work of Megan Anderson, and Israel Adesanya, albeit it's going to be a great fight and it's going to be extremely interesting. You won't be surprised to see Jan Blachowicz shut down Adesanya in dominant fashion, but at the same time, you would not be surprised to see Israel Adesanya make another masterclass and show us all how it's done, essentially, and come in here and dominate UFC 259. Now, I'd like to know from you, the viewer, what do you think? Now, I'm not talking about this UFC 259 event, because we're going to be talking about that, of course, coming up in the next few weeks. But I would like to know your opinion. I'm going to have you guys vote on Twitter, and I apologize for not having something set up in advance for this, but I'd like you guys to vote out on Twitter, vote out on the Facebook. Let me know who are your top 5 pound for pound fighters of all time. We all know John Bones Jones and Amanda Nunes are up there, but after that it gets a little bit iffy. So I'd like to know from you, and it's going to be a discussion on our next episode. Who are the top 5 pound for pound fighters in the UFC all time, or not of all time, of right now? Top 5 UFC pound for pound fighters right now. You got to take Khabib out of the mix, because Khabib's a soccer player now. He doesn't fight anymore. So like I said, you're looking at John Bones, you're looking at Amanda Nunes, and I want to know, what do you think? Who are your top 5 pound for pound fighters? What are your rankings in the UFC at this current moment right now? Now, before we move on to the next portion of today's episode, man, I think I might have missed out on a word from the tweet. It really wasn't a word on the tweet. It's just one of the craziest things that I have seen this week in sports. Let me find it really quick for you. Now, you may have already seen it, you may have not. Anthony Edwards, rookie sensation from the Minnesota Timberwolves, has been just putting on a clinic, a dunking clinic this season so far in the NBA, and it's obvious that if we were doing everyone's favorite event of NBA All-Star Weekend, which is the dunk contest, Anthony Edwards would be the first player voted in to the dunk contest. And Anthony Edwards made his first official disrespectful poster, and I would like to feature Anthony Edwards on the Huddle Chat Sports first official inaugural. It's going to be a new segment that we're going to be bringing around here called He's Got a Family. Now, we're going to have a great graphic that pops up and everything when I do it typically. This is going to be called the He's Got a Family segment, and it's going to be one of the most disrespectful things that you see in sports. The He's Got a Family moment of the week means, man, he's got a family. He's got a wife that he's got to go home and look at after that. He's got kids that he still has to go home and try to instill respect into them. And he's got to look them in the eyes and try to say things like take out the trash with a stern voice while his kids look at him like, shut up! He's got a family. Why you got to disrespect him like that, Anthony Edwards? Jesus. Let's look at it here, man.
They were lucky that wasn't turned over. Anthony Edwards, that time he does finish.
Man, he's got a family, Anthony Edwards. Why you got to do that to him like that? He got to go home and look at his kids. Like I said, he's got to go home and look at his wife after that. He got to go home and try to get some sweet loving from his wife. So I'm like, shut up before I get Anthony over here. It's disrespectful, Anthony Edwards. Honestly, they should fine you for that. That shit's fucked up. I'd be pissed. I'd fight you in the parking lot. Honestly, if I got dunked on like that, it's fighting time. Like, it's for real. Like, I'm not. The game's over. We're done. We're fighting now. So, in memory of Anthony Edwards' absolutely ridiculous dunk and poster, and we're just going to call that the slobber knocker that Anthony Edwards put down on dude, I want to look at some of the nastiest, some of the most memorable rookie dunks of all time. We got the top 3 most disrespectful rookie dunks in NBA history. Let's look at them here now. The first one, number 3 that we're going to be looking at, is going to be Vince Carter's memorable dunk against the Indiana Pacers. Let's see what Vince Carter's got for it.
20 of them.
Like, how'd you do it? Well, then, once you see the dunk, you're like, did he really?
That boy Vince Carter was damn near undefeated on the rim. Nobody could contest with him. I wish I was a little bit younger so I got to actually, or a little bit older, so I got to actually watch Vince Carter when he was at his prime, dunking all everybody. I remember some of my first NBA 2Ks, Vince Carter was always one of my favorite players to play with because he was so ridiculous when it came to driving down the lane and dunking. Vince Carter was another animal. Now let's look at the number 2 most disrespectful rookie dunk of all time.
Around the Griffin screen, pick, roll, slam dunk! Oh me, oh my, what a play! He stopped about 3 feet short of the rim and just threw it down.
Ralph, it's like the elevator went to the 3rd floor and paused, and he got fouled, and he said, I gotta go another level. Watch this play. Look at this.
That is amazing.
Oh, he never touched the rim with his hands.
That boy Blake Griffin was built different, especially young Blake Griffin, especially Blake Griffin that was jumping over Kias and shit like that. Blake Griffin, when he was younger, had so much potential. Playing in Lob City, I mean, could have potentially ruined it, but honestly, I just think he regressed so bad because of the style of play that he had. But boy, was young Blake Griffin a damn joy to watch when he was out there on the court. Now, let's look at the number 1, the most disrespectful dunk by a rookie ever of all time, NBA history, and I'll be willing to argue with you if you think there is a more disrespectful rookie dunk that's ever happened in NBA history. You let me know what's more disrespectful than Shaquille O'Neal breaking the motherfucking backboard.
Puts it on the floor and stops and he brought it down. He brought the whole goal down. Oh boy. Man.
I'm waiting. You tell me something that's more disrespectful than Shaquille O'Neal. Bro, after that dunk, they had to rethink how they build the NBA backboards. The baskets that we look at in the NBA today are the way that they are right now because Shaq did that. This is the most disrespectful thing by a rookie to ever happen in the NBA. Thank you, Anthony Edwards, for absolutely making mince meat of that young man out there in Toronto and bringing that great segment to the Huddle Chat Sports Show, bringing the kickback back. And Anthony Edwards, never forget, man, he's got a family, dog. Now that we're speaking about the NBA, there's been a lot of action this season in the NBA. I mean, it's coming off of that shorter season, coming off that shorter off season and being a projected shorter regular season this year. The NBA has been, I mean, every other day you're getting your favorite team playing basketball, if not every day back to back. Now, it's been hot this season, and there's been a lot of changes in the NBA power rankings since the season has started, going up and down, left and right, round in circles. The NBA power rankings, especially over there in that Western Conference, the Eastern Conference, the Leastern Conference, the top heavy Leastern Conference. I mean, that one's kind of easy to figure out. I mean, we're going to talk about the Eastern Conference next week, but this week, what we're going to be focusing on here on the Huddle Chat Sports Show is the Western Conference in the NBA, because at the end of the day, there's going to be a team or two in the Western Conference that don't even make the playoffs, that we're going to be sitting here talking about, like I was just talking about the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC East a few segments back, about how we're going to be talking about some of those teams from the Eastern Conference didn't even deserve to sniff the playoffs, let alone snub out some of these Western Conference teams that aren't even going to make the playoffs. So right now we're going to have to decipher and look at the NBA power rankings and see who are the real contenders and who are the pretenders, who's smoking and who's choking in the NBA Western Conference. Now, what I want to examine, what I want to look at first, we're gonna break it all down. We're gonna make it easy because I don't want anybody to snap on me for missing out on somebody, right? So we're gonna write them all down, right? So we got the Lakers, Clippers. We're taking the LA teams out of it because everybody knows the LA teams are contenders, and don't fucking play with me if you think that neither one of those teams are a contender. I don't even want to hear your opinion, to be honest with you. Now, so we're taking out the Lakers and the Clippers organizations. Those are two kind of give-me's, and we're going to focus on the race for the remaining 6 seeds in the Western Conference, the 6-man race for relevancy, as we're going to call it here. So you're looking at some of those top remaining teams. I'm going to go from bottom to top in that ascending order here. Give me 1 second. So when we're looking at the teams that are going to be in the NBA power rankings on the Western Conference, right now you're looking at, you have the New Orleans Pelicans, who's another team. We're going to blow through them really quickly. The New Orleans Pelicans, they're absolutely fun to watch. I love watching the New Orleans Pelicans. Zion, Brandon Ingram, they brought in big dude that looks like Aquaman. He's playing absolutely lights out. I can't remember his name. It's skipping me right now. Steven Adams. They brought in Steven Adams, and with the additions that the New Orleans Pelicans have made, Lonzo Ball definitely needs to step up and play better basketball, or they need to trade Lonzo. But the Pelicans are fun, and they will knock one of the contending teams out of contention with a couple big losses. But until the New Orleans Pelicans can add one more piece to make them a little bit more explosive of an offense, and a little bit like, because right now what the New Orleans Pelicans remind me of is Lob City. They remind me of that Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, Chris Paul team out in LA, that Clippers team that we had. That was fun to watch, yes, but at the end of the day was not per se the most dominant NBA team around. Was not really the best NBA team around. That's what the New Orleans Pelicans remind me of right now. So I mean, easy to say the New Orleans Pelicans right now, especially with the way that the Western Conference is looking, the New Orleans Pelicans are absolute pretenders at the current moment. Now, you look at the Golden State Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks. You hear me here on the Huddle Chat Sports Show. I love me some Luka Doncic, and we all know who Stephon Curry is. We all know who Chef Curry is, the greatest basketball, most efficient shooter in NBA history. Blase. Not enough can be said about Steph Curry. But the fact of the matter is, Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks are pretenders. Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors are pretenders. Golden State got screwed with Klay Thompson being injured, and unless they can bring in a shooting guard that's got Klay Thompson-esque caliber before the trade deadline hits, the Golden State Warriors are going to remain a pretending team until Klay Thompson comes back, until they get the Splash Brothers and that greatest shooting basketball court in NBA. The greatest shooting backcourt in NBA history back in order. The Golden State Warriors are going to continue to be a pretending team. And like I said, the same thing with Dallas Mavericks and Luka Doncic. Until Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks can figure out what's going on, can figure out adding on another star that's not Kristaps Porzingis and getting my boy Luka some help, you're going to be looking at the Dallas Mavericks absolutely floundering, struggling in every sense of the word. And the Dallas Mavericks are on flat out. They're going to be a pretender until they can figure out what they're going to be able to do with that second superstar. And like I said, there's no real superstars available. Last week when we talked about the Dallas Mavericks, there's no real superstar available for the Dallas Mavericks to take on and grab in to increase their level of play. So I think the Dallas Mavericks right now, they're kind of floundering. They're going to be a pretender as well. So bam, that's three of the teams off tops. Pelicans, Mavericks, Warriors, all pretenders, and especially in the way that this Western Conference is built. Now, if one of those three teams was over in the East, I'd be able to argue that they were a contending team. They've got all the pieces that they need to do to surprise somebody. But at the end of the day, not one of those teams is going to surprise anybody, especially when you talk about the top 6 or 7 remaining teams that we haven't spoke about. Now, the remaining teams on the list, you got the Portland Trail Blazers, the Denver Nuggets, the Phoenix Suns, the Utah Jazz. Will be the 4 teams that we haven't spoke about. Like I said, New Orleans pretenders, Golden State pretenders, Dallas Maverick also pretenders. Now, when we look at the Denver Nuggets, I'm gonna say the Denver Nuggets because when I do my power rankings, of course, you got the LAs, you got Utah surprisingly at number 1 right now in the Western Conference power ranking. I don't think they're going to finish that high. I think Utah ends up with the hot start that they had. I think Utah ends up with the 3rd seed. I got the Nuggets with the 4th seed. Then you got the Phoenix Suns with the 5th, and Dame Time with the 6th. I think Damian Lillard, let's see here. Now with the Blazers, I actually think the Blazers have a real chance at contending with Devin Booker and the Phoenix Suns for that 5th seed and for being that 5th best team as opposed to the 6th best team. Just based on how the regular season pans out. But when you look at what the Portland Trail Blazers have been doing this season, now I want to point to the fact that Damian Lillard is being absolutely disrespected, and what's been happening to Damian Lillard is, let me get a little closer to the mic. What's been happening to my boy Damian Lillard has been just a few steps short of criminal. I heard an argument over on First Take today, is Damian Lillard an underappreciated player? And at first I sided with Max Kellerman, who was saying no, he's not underappreciated. He's got commercials. Everybody knows who Dame Time is. But then I sat down and I looked at the facts that Damian Lillard has never won an MVP. Damian Lillard has barely ever been to an All-Star game. He gets snubbed from All-Star games left and right and left. Damian Lillard missing All-Star games is no new news to NBA fans. Damian Lillard, he's one of the most underappreciated and undervalued players in the NBA today, honestly. Fact of the matter is, since 2015, Damian Lillard has played with no MVPs. He's had 0 All-Stars, 0 Rookies of the Year. No teammates of his have made the All-NBA. He's had no All-Rookie teammates, no Defensive Players of the Year on his team, no Six-Mans of the Years on his team, and he's not had a Coach of the Year, and he's never once complained. Damian Lillard this season gets snubbed from the All-Star game for Luka Doncic, and I can argue and say Luka Doncic has similar numbers to Damian Lillard, but Damian Lillard deserved the spot more because Damian has put his team in the position to win. And not only has he put his team in the position to win, but CJ McCollum, the second best player on that team, who's having the best year of his career to this point, has been gone for almost a month due to injury. You look at Nurkic, their big man, has been gone for about 2 weeks now with injury and health and safety COVID protocols as well. And you're looking at Enes Kanter stepping up and playing really well in his absence. Gary Trent Jr. stepping up extremely well for CJ McCollum. And Damian Lillard, in a sense, is carrying this Portland Trailblazers team. Not even in a sense, in every sense of the word, is carrying this Portland Trailblazers team. Now, the Portland Trailblazers, like I said, the others have stepped up and they've made some noise, and they've helped out Damian Lillard and made it not as difficult of a time for Dame time. But Damian Lillard is doing this damn thing by himself, and when he gets Nurkic back and has Enes Kanter and Nurkic back in the lineup, and then he has CJ McCollum, the second best player on the team, back in the lineup, and then it's still Dame time, the most clutch player in NBA history. Nobody has more clutch points than Damian Lillard. Only Michael Jordan has also closed out multiple playoff series with a game-winning shot like Damian Lillard has. And that's great company when you and the only other person is one of the greatest basketball players to ever step foot on a hardwood basketball court, concrete or hardwood, to be honest with you. Michael Jordan, we all know who he is. I mean, to be in that conversation, it just shows the clutch genes inside Damian Lillard, and Michael Jordan is widely considered the best clutch player in basketball history when you're arguing against Damian Lillard. So you look at the only other player that is as clutch as Damian Lillard is the only other player that you argue that could be more clutch than Damian Lillard. That's great company for Dame to be in. So whenever the Portland Trailblazers get their full health back and get their full squad back, the Portland Trailblazers are going to be an absolutely deadly squad, and they are without a doubt in my mind contenders. And I mean, I don't really quite see them with everybody being 100% healthy. I don't quite see them, making that full finals run. I do see them getting as deep as the second, maybe even the third round. But I do think that they're contenders, and they're definitely that team that can send your favorite team home, or the favorite team to win home, way earlier than they were expecting to. And we've seen him do that multiple times. Cue in the Damian Lillard waving goodbye to Russell Westbrook and OKC. Cue in Damian Lillard hitting that game-winning shot against Houston. Cue in that Damian Lillard meme where he's getting carried off by his teammates after just Dame time after Dame time after Dame time. So I think the Portland Trailblazers are definite contenders and definite dark horse explosive candidates for the NBA Finals championship. Now we're taking another step up, and like I said, the Phoenix Suns are that team that's kind of flip-flopping with me right now for the Portland Trailblazers. Honestly, when I look at it, I think I'd have to put the Portland Trailblazers just one step above the Phoenix Suns. Fact of the matter is, the Phoenix Suns are doing the damn thing, and they're doing it well. You look at the Phoenix Suns last year; they went undefeated in the bubble, and you looked at Devin Booker and some of their younger players had explosive touts last season. You look at some of Devin Booker's 60-point game and stuff like that. They definitely showed a lot of flashes of being an extremely potentially sound team. It seemed like one of the few things that they were missing was that veteran leadership. Besides the different spots that they were missing on their lineup, they were just missing that veteran leadership. And they went into the offseason and had an absolutely amazing offseason, and they acquired Chris Paul, which was a questionable move at the beginning and at the start of it all. But they acquired Chris Paul, and after getting Chris Paul, they also get Jay Crowder from the Miami Heat, the finals championship presented. The Miami Heat go to the finals championship contenders. Jay Crowder was on with the Miami Heat, and even besides then, he played with the Boston Celtics on their many playoff runs. He's got that playoff prowess and that veteran leadership ability. Chris Paul is one of those players that what he does for an NBA basketball team, especially with the older that he gets, it starts to not show up as much on the stat sheet when you're looking at the game recap. But like when you look at what he did for OKC last season, when he joined OKC, They had like a 0.2% chance to make the NBA Finals. Now, OKC ended up making the 5th seed and taking that Houston Rockets James Harden team to a 7-game series and making it an extremely interesting series and almost winning that series with James in Houston. So you look at what Chris Paul does just leadership-wise and what he brings to a team, even besides what he does on the court. Chris Paul is a man that you want in your locker room. Jay Crowder, besides filling the holes that they had, the glaring holes that they had on defense and down low, the holes that he fills there, he also gives you that veteran leadership, that playoff that playoff potential, that playoff experience from being in multiple playoff and finals runs. So Jay Crowder and Chris Paul have made the difference. Devin Booker has been absolutely balling. What I would like to see from the Phoenix Suns is for DeAndre Ayton to step up and score a few more points a game. I was hoping to see him scoring about 18 a game. Right now he's sitting about 14. So I think DeAndre Ayton has a lot more potential to play a lot better, especially when you look at what they're going to need to do against those big men in the league, like Anthony Davis, Joel, Giannis. I mean, the big men run the world. They always have in the NBA. So you need to be able to step up and be a dominant big man in order for your team to actually be a contender. Now, I think the Phoenix Suns are a good contending team. But as it stands right now, I think the Phoenix Suns are pretenders. I think the Phoenix Suns, until DeAndre Ayton can step up and take that next step with how the Western Conference is currently constructed, the Phoenix Suns are a great contending team, and the Phoenix Suns have great potential, but the Phoenix Suns are not going to be able to get past Damian Lillard. They're not going to be able to get past any of those top teams in the NBA Western Conference at the current moment. I think personally the Phoenix Suns, as it stands right now, are a pretending team. Like I said, they're a great team. They're well developed. Give them one more season. The way that they're currently developed right now, they're going to be an amazing contending team. But as it currently stands right now, they're pretenders. Now, the only remaining two teams are the two obvious ones and the two big ones that we really need to talk about. The Denver Nuggets, the hometown heroes out here in Colorado. All my Denver fans love to hear me talk about the Denver Nuggets. Now, for the Denver Nuggets, me personally, of course, Jokic is balling. Joker is out of control. Big Honey, he's an MVP caliber player, one of the main people that you're talking about when you're talking MVP. But the Nuggets as a whole have been pretty inconsistent outside of Nikola Jokic this year. And the key players that you look at when you're looking at what the Denver Nuggets have and the players that the Denver Nuggets have around them, you look at Jokic, he's been balling, and the first other player that comes to mind is Jamal Murray. After how he played in the bubble, Jamal Murray became sort of a household name. Jamal Murray, I mean, he exploded in the bubble. His games against Donovan Mitchell, his games against the Clippers, they came back, I think it was like 2 or 3 different times from down 3-1 on the back of Jamal Murray. 50-point nights left and right. He balled, and you were expecting Jamal Murray to carry that play over into the regular season, and you were expecting that Jamal Murray had taken that next step up in his career that he needed to be that dominant player that we all thought Jamal Murray was. But Jamal Murray has been fairly inconsistent and has regressed back to his normal self, back to the Jamal Murray that we normally typically see during the regular season, and that's not the Jamal Murray that you need. He's not a bad player by any sense of the word, but he's shooting 34% from downtown. That's not going to cut it. He's shooting 18 points a game as a team's superstar caliber player, leading point guard. That's not going to cut it, scoring those 18 points a game. Jamal Murray needs to take a gigantic lunge forward and lunge up in order to make those Denver Nuggets contenders. You look at Michael Porter Jr. and the surrounding cast, it's just not clicking. Michael Porter Jr. is still great on offense, but he's not getting it done on defense. You look at Gary Harris, he's defending well, but he's not to be trusted on offense. The Denver Nuggets right now, they have I believe the 5th best offense in the NBA, but at the end of it all, they have the 21st best defense in the league, one of a bottom 10 defense in the NBA. Now, unless you're an offensive explosive juggernaut of the likes of the Brooklyn Nets, you can't be successful or even think about being successful with a bottom 10 defense in the NBA. It just does not work like that. And with how inconsistent that the Denver Nuggets have been, unless there's some sort of physical switch that they can turn on to turn that playoff on, the Denver Nuggets, to me right now, the way the Western Conference is currently constructed, are officially pretenders. I think the Denver Nuggets are a great team. Same thing with the Phoenix Suns. But with how consistent that they are right now, with just Joker getting it done by himself, Jamal Murray not stepping up, and the others surrounding them not stepping up and doing what they need to, the Denver Nuggets right now are pretenders. They're going to go into the playoffs. They're going to make a run, but ultimately they're not going to get it done to one of the real teams that are in the NBA playoffs. Now, let's talk about the big one, the Utah Jazz, the surprising one, the one that's at the top of the power rankings multiple times. They've been ranked above the Lakers and the Nets multiple times, even since James Harden has become a Brooklyn Net. And they have the best record in the West right now, I believe, as well, even over the Lakers. Now, what makes that Utah Jazz team so dominant, and can the Utah Jazz keep that going? Are the Utah Jazz really contenders? Now, I'm not going to lie to you. When I'm looking at the Utah Jazz, I look at how they're presently constructed, because we have a really bad sickness as sports fans that if we haven't seen it in recent memory, then it just doesn't exist to us. Now, fact of the matter is the Utah Jazz have not won more than, I think, what it was like, they've won like 1 or 2 playoff games in the last decade or two. In the last 2 decades, they've won 1 or 2 playoff games. So we just, in recent memory, as the Utah Jazz as an organization, haven't seen it, on top of the fact that they're an extremely young team, one of the youngest teams in the NBA, and have some of the young great stars in the NBA. As before mentioned, you got the Donovan Mitchell, who had those great games against Jamal Murray in the bubble and became a household name. And I mean, I'd argue to say that if things had gone a little bit different in that series, and the Utah Jazz would have been able to close it out, because the Nuggets got by on the hair of their chins. If the Utah Jazz would have been able to close that out, I think the same thing would have happened to the Clippers if the Utah Jazz would have stepped up, because the Utah Jazz had the same potential that the Denver Nuggets did last year. Now, what happened after that is what really makes the Utah Jazz such a dominant team, makes them the Utah Jazz that you're not looking at them like they're the same team that you've been looking at for the last few years. Now, with the Utah Jazz, right now, at the current moment, now I know this is kind of, this is kind of, how do you say, not realistic that they can keep this up. But I personally think when you look at the Utah Jazz, they have 11 different players right now. Now, let me rephrase that. Not 11. They have 6 different guys averaging 11.5 points or better right now. That's where I got the 11 from. They have 6 different guys averaging 11.5 points or better. Now, that means that right now you're looking at what the Utah Jazz are getting done, and it's not just Donovan Mitchell getting it done. It's not just Joe Ingles getting it done. It's not just Royce O'Neal and his great 3-and-D getting it done. It's not just Rudy Gobert and the Defensive Player of the Year getting it done. The Utah Jazz are a team built with depth that can take injuries, that can take all that, and they're built fully around. The Utah Jazz are a team that is built for a championship run. They're a top 2 defense, a top 5 offense in the league right now as far as efficiency. If the league ended right now, if they stay on the same track that they're on, they even have the potential to beat out the Dallas Mavericks' efficiency history-breaking season last year. So the Utah Jazz have everything going for them on the stat sheet. Now, when you look at everything in a basketball mindset, Rudy Gobert is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, not just every year, but this year as well, is a very serious contender for the Defensive Player of the Year. He's averaging something like 14 points a game, 13 rebounds a game, and 6 blocks per game. Now, there's only one team that you cannot do that against, and that's them Los Angeles Lakers and Anthony Davis and LeBron James. There's only one team that Rudy Gobert will not be that same player against, and that's LeBron James. You look at Bojan Bogdanovic coming out, and Joe Ingles, like I said, both waiting for the 3, shooting at a very efficient levels at the current moment. You look at Jordan Clarkson coming off the bench, being a potential 6th Man of the Year candidate this season, playing absolutely lights out, better than he ever did with the yellow and purple on. Jordan Clarkson is, like I said, he's runaway right now, 6th Man of the Year, for sure a candidate for it, and he's definitely stepping up and making a great role player for for the Utah Jazz. And you look at Devin Booker, he's stepping up, he's being that star that we know that Devin Booker can be. Same thing with Donovan Mitchell. They're stepping up and they're getting it done. And what Donovan Mitchell has proved to us is that he's a superstar when it counts. He's a star day in and day out, but he's a superstar when it really counts. And then you look at, like I said, not Devin. I don't know why I said Devin Booker. And then, like I said, you just look at how that team is constructed. They have a potential coach of the year right now. And that Utah Jazz team is just constructed all the way around with no holes in it. Like I said, the only thing that stands in their way is that the only team that they won't be able to play that way against is them Los Angeles Lakers on paper, because Rudy Gobert can only be so dominant against the LeBron and AD combination. Donovan Mitchell and the likes of those will have to step up. So with how the Western Conference is currently constructed at the current moment, I would have to say that the Utah Jazz, without a doubt, are contenders, bro. Like, how can you not say the Utah Jazz are not contenders? I actually would have to say the Utah Jazz belong up there with the LA teams. I think either the Clippers or the Jazz are going to be the downfall of the Lakers this season. I think with how the Western Conference is presently constructed, any team is going to be hard-pressed to make it out. I don't care, 8th seed, 2nd seed, 5th seed, 1 seed. You're going to be hard-pressed, and you're not going to be surprised to see a lot of upsets come out of the Western Conference because, like I said, right now you're looking at the Mavericks, the Warriors, the Jazz, the Pelicans, the Nuggets, the Suns, the Trailblazers, the Clippers, the Lakers. I mean, that's 9 teams that I just named off the top of my head on teams that you think deserve at least a shot in the NBA playoffs, and that you would be upset to not see to have that opportunity and have that potential in the NBA playoffs. Fact of the matter is, somebody good is going to get snubbed out of the NBA playoffs in the Western Conference. And it's time to decide who those real teams are. And I think the Lakers are going to be hard-pressed, just like every other team, to get out of that Western Conference, no matter what their seed is. Honestly, I think for the Lakers, their best option is going to be to hit that 2nd or 3rd seed. I don't think they want the number 1 seed. I kind of think they want one of those middle-of-the-road teams, because one of those bottom-level teams could knock you out just as easily. So I think the Lakers would be better pressed to get that middle seed and let the better teams, the better constructed teams, duke it out. Because as we're seeing right now with Anthony Davis being out, I mean, LeBron James is at 36 years old playing 36 minutes a game, and he can only keep that up for so long. He can only carry the Los Angeles Lakers on his back for so long. I mean, we've all seen it. We know that LeBron gives the Lakers a chance. LeBron gives anybody a chance. LeBron could take Mitchell High School right now to the NBA, and they'd have a chance to win the NBA Finals. That's just what LeBron does for a team, and especially with LeBron playing at the level that he's playing at right now. LeBron is all world, but I think LeBron will be hard-pressed if the Lakers are not 100% healthy to not only make it out of the Western Conference, but to even contend for the NBA Finals. I mean, that Brooklyn Nets team is an absolute dominant monster. We're going to be talking about the Eastern Conference a lot next week as well. Like I said, we're going to be talking about smoking or choking, who the real contenders are, and who the pretenders are in the Eastern Conference next week. But this week, as far as pretenders and contenders go, I say Dame Time. He's contending. I say Donovan Mitchell and the Jazz, they're contending, besides the Clippers and the Lakers. But I think the Nuggets, they aren't realistically contending this year. I think the Golden State Warriors aren't contending. The Mavericks aren't contending. The Pelicans, although one of the most fun, enjoyable teams to watch, not contending. Give all those teams another season, another year of growth. They're going to be one of the most talked about teams and one of the scariest teams in the NBA next season, along with the rest of the Western Conference. But as far as this year goes, as the Western Conference is presently constructed, I see 4 serious contenders. The Lakers, the Clippers, the LAs. Then you got the Jazz, and you got Dame Time. And then after that, I kind of think everybody else is a little bit pretending. Everybody else is choking. They're going to end up choking when it comes down to what really matters and what really counts at the end of the day. Now, something funky did happen during my episode today. I don't know what it was. It was a Facebook thing I've never experienced before. It cut my video off weirdly, so my live viewership has become kind of funky, and I'm going to have to figure that out at the end of the video. But I would like to, as always, thank you guys so extremely much for tuning into today's episode of the Huddle Chat Sports Show. Episode 30. Dirty 30 is the episode for today, and we could not have made it this far without you guys. I mean, if you've been watching me from the beginning or even just in recent weeks, I feel like I'm getting better, and it's all thanks to you guys. You guys make me feel so comfortable when I'm here talking to you. It's just a regular conversation. We're getting things worked out, and it's just going to get better from here. There's a lot more parts moving and shaking now, and honestly, THC Sports is only going up from here. So thank you guys so much for enjoying this portion of the ride. Your stop has arrived. I would like to let you guys off the bus at this point. Like I said, next week we're not going to be doing an episode, more than likely, because my birthday is coming up next week, March 3rd, so I will not be in town to be able to do the video live, but we're coming back bigger and better than ever. March 9th, that very next Tuesday, talking about the top 5 pound-for-pound fighters of all time, or top 5 pound-for-pound fighters of today in the UFC, talking about who are the real pretenders and who are the real contenders and who are the pretenders in the Eastern Conference of the NBA. And of course, not only is the NBA trade deadline coming up right a little bit after that March 9th episode that I'll be doing, but the NFL season officially will be starting March 17th, so a little bit after that March 9th episode as well. So we'll have a lot of new news and rumors to discuss on next week's episode as well. I always love to hear you guys' opinion, whether it's on the live video, whether it's on my Facebook, whether it's on the Twitter, whether you comment on the YouTube video when you watch it on demand later on when you're not watching it live, or just DM me however you can get a hold of me. If you know me, you know how to get a hold of me, and if you can't figure it out, you got one of those different options. Like I said, the different social medias, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you know how to get a hold of me. So if you have any feedback, any comments, if you want to be featured on my show, let me know. Comment, let me know. I love interacting with you guys, and like I said, you guys are a big part of the reason why I'm here. I'm coming up with a lot of big things that I want to do. I'm trying to do a couple of different things. Got the 40th episode coming up. I think I want to start doing a giveaway to kind of increase that followership, because this week alone, 70 new followers, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. That's a big increase, biggest jump that we've had in such a short amount of time here in the Huddle Chat Sports Show history. So thank you guys enough. Welcome, and I appreciate you guys. Like I said, thank you so much for enjoying this portion of the ride on the Huddle Chat Sports Show. Now, like I said, don't forget to check out my boy Legacy, who will be the new theme song and the new theme artist for the Huddle Chat Sports Show. Check out Legacy on Spotify or on Apple Music. If you like the theme song of the show, you'll definitely like some of the other music that he has to offer. So check my boy Legacy out. He's coming out with them hot new tracks. Don't forget, y'all, to try out MAW Energy. Game Like a Beast. I'll drop my link for you guys to get that 10% off with MAW Energy down in the link below. But until I see y'all guys next time, I hope that your plants never stop growing and the sports never stop showing. It's your boy Indo is my Nindo, and I am getting out of here. You guys have a great rest of your night and a great rest of your week. Much love, and I am out of here. Peace out.
Baby, please pick up the phone. I know that you're home, I've been so alone. I've been lost in a room and the door been closed. Yo, I hope that it snows so I don't have to go out in the world that'll judge me. Lovely, trust me, I ain't looking for no one to fuck me. Love me, touch me, even though I'm ugly. I'm trying to put you on a pedestal up above me. I look in the mirror.
It's hard to deny the positive effect that cannabis has had on sports in the past and sports today as we know it. Cannabis is a part of sports whether you like it or not.
Often it pays to throw caution away. Man, I'm not gonna say that I'm living my best, cause my head, it resides
And
in
you're
the dark
getting
part of space.
high in the middle of the afternoon
Back, I got time today. We gon' fly away from all these problems. Lost in the moment, I don't feel like stopping. Hey, what I'm trying to say, you never know if you're gon' die today, cause you only live your life on this earth one time. I'ma get what's mine, I'ma find a way. Hey, hey. But hey, what I'm trying to say is call me back, I got time today. We gon' fly away from all these problems. Lost in the moment, I don't feel like stopping. Hey, what I'm trying to say